What's up guys? Welcome back to the Classic Car Maintenance channel. In today's video, we're going to try out the world's smallest thermal camera, the Infiray P2 Pro. It comes in this nicely designed box which looks promising. Then, when we look at the back, we can see that this is the version with the macro lens. It's also the iOS version with the lightning adapter. There's a different version for Android, so make sure you get the right one. Let's take a look inside. The first thing you see is this envelope. Inside you have this little pouch to store the P2 Pro. Not too bad, although we would have preferred a hard shell carrying case to protect the lenses a bit better. And finally, we have some instruction manuals. Let's put that to the side and take a look at the device itself. It's nicely wedged in here so it doesn't move around during transport. As you can see, it is super small, and the Android version is even a bit smaller. It's also super light, weighing only 11 grams or 9 grams for the Android version. So the connector is more than strong enough to prevent the camera from getting loose under its own weight. This thermal camera shoots 24 frames per second, which is many times better than the well-known competition like FLIR and Seat, who only go up to 9 frames per second for similar devices. It can measure from -4 to an incredible 1112 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a much higher temperature than the competition. The resolution is 256 by 192 pixels, revealing even the smallest heat details and has a lot more than similar devices on the market. It's even close to much more expensive devices that are larger and have a much lower temperature range and refresh rate than the P2 Pro. The case is made from aluminum, which gives it a quality feel. Another great design feature is the black spacer, allowing the device to be plugged in even if you have a thick phone case. A big advantage the P2 Pro has is that it uses your phone's battery and does not rely on internal batteries that need to be charged. And finally, we have the macro lens, which allows for close-ups, making this thermal camera ideal for inspecting smaller electronics. It's got a small cap protecting the lens, and on the inside it has this magnet, which it uses to stick to the thermal camera. Let's try it out. You just take the macro lens and the thermal camera, line up the lenses, and then just place it on top. It automatically locks into place thanks to the magnet. It's on there pretty solid, so it won't move or come off on its own. Yet it is still easy enough to take it off if you want to. That's it for the camera. Let's get testing. First, you need to take off the protective cover. Then go to the App Store and download the Thermal P2 app. Just plug the device in and open the app. For this demonstration, we've got a soldering iron on the lowest heat setting on our desk. When the app has made connection to the thermal camera, it is ready to use. Sometimes the screen will freeze very shortly before continuing, but that's just the thermal camera calibrating, and that's normal with these devices. You can also easily change the color palette depending on your preference or to help you see the colors if you're colorblind. As you can see, there's a lot of colors to choose from, but we're going to leave it on the rainbow where it goes from dark blue being the coldest and red being the warmest. Just press the palette button again to select. What you can immediately see is the 3 measurements on screen. You have a center point of your screen that you can point in any direction and it will give the temperature of that exact spot. The 2 other indicators are for the highest temperature and the lowest temperature measured on your screen. When you go to the settings, you can enter the professional thermometry mode. This adds a lot more options that you can use to get temperature readings. You can add points, lines, and squares, and change the scale to select specific heat ranges you want to visualize. You can add 1 or multiple points, and at the top of your screen, you can see the corresponding temperature of that point. You can also add a line. After drawing the line, the app will give you the max temperature, the average, and the lowest temperature on that line. And the same goes for the frame. This allows you to drag a square on the screen, and this too will give you the max temperature, average, and lowest temperature in that square. And wherever you place the square by pointing the camera, that's what the app will calculate the temperatures for. Finally, you can adjust the scale to highlight a certain temperature range. This can be really helpful if you need to check if something is surpassing normal operating temperature. Just set the scale above the normal temperature and it will highlight the parts that are too hot. And if you want to remove all the points and lines you added on the screen, just press the delete button and it's gone. Apart from the normal settings in the top left corner, you can find some more specific settings in the bottom right corner by pressing this button. Under variable correction, you can adjust the variables to get even more accurate readings. The first variable is the surface you're scanning. Every surface emits and reflects heat differently, so telling the device what it's looking at can improve the results. You can also set the ambient temperature and distance to the object. As you can see here, it says personalizza, which is Italian for customize. This is a small bug in the app, so we've contacted the people from Infiray to notify them of this issue. They immediately responded that they are investigating the issue and told us they're going to fix it in one of the next updates. So by the time you watch this video, it's probably already solved. You can also change the measurement mode. You can choose between high quality image with normal heat range, wide range, or automatic switching between the two. The wide range will show, as the name suggests, a much wider range of temperatures and doesn't recalibrate depending on how hot the object is. But this comes at a cost of a less detailed image. But we prefer the detailed image, especially when dealing with electronics or car parts. It's important to know where exactly the heat is coming from to pinpoint potential issues or defects. And finally, you can go to the image settings and manually adjust the brightness and the contrast to make the image clearer. And just press the arrow to revert back to the standard settings. If you go back to the settings, you can select the image settings where you can change some other features as well. The voice registration is once again in Italian and will be fixed in the next update. You can also change the measurement settings depending on your preferences. You can display the temperature in Celsius, Kelvin, or Fahrenheit. You can even set an audible temperature alarm, which will go off above a max set temperature or below a minimum set temperature. It even has burn protection to protect the camera when you accidentally point it at the sun or an object that is too hot. Finally, there are some general settings like the language and theme settings. And if you want to save your data, you can take a photo with the app or a video just like you would with your phone. Afterwards, just open the gallery to view the result. You can select a single photo or multiple, and even share it to other devices, which can come in handy if you want to show a heat-related problem to someone else. Like our Jeep, for example. When the rear window is fogging up in winter, the rear window defogger works, but not perfectly. By simply checking it with the P2 Pro, we can immediately see that two heating elements aren't working. After going for a drive to warm up the engine and moving parts of the car, we can easily demonstrate how handy this tool is. You can, for example, use it to check if the brakes or bearings are overheating. No more guessing, just point the camera at it and see the difference in temperature. Or maybe to quickly check on the radiator. No problem. You can even check if the engine is staying at a normal temperature, if the electronics aren't overheating, or if the belts and pulleys aren't generating too much friction and heating up. It's super fast and easy to do. As you can see, this camera can easily switch between a cold tire and this warmed up tire and brakes. It very clearly indicates all the temperature differences from around 50 degrees Fahrenheit to 200 plus, showing all the parts in high detail. No more guessing when looking at a vague orange or red blob on screen. This high-definition thermal camera reveals every detail. Talking about details, when you work with electronics, you might want to take a look up close to inspect tiny components. Although this camera already gives a lot more details than other comparable thermals, when bringing it up close, it becomes blurry. That's where the macro lens comes into play. Just line the macro lens up with the P2 Pro and the magnet will do the rest, locking it into place. With this lens, it is the other way around. It is blurry from a distance and gets sharper and clearer when you get closer to the ideal focus distance. This amazing lens allows you to inspect even the tiniest component in detail, making it easy to pinpoint which electrical component is shorting out. The P2 Pro indicates that the soldering iron tip is 180 degrees Fahrenheit warm. This corresponds to the temperature it is set to, exactly 180 degrees. Perfect. The Infiray P2 Pro holds, rightfully so, the title of the world's smallest thermal camera. It's about the same size as a quarter, but don't let its size deceive you. It's a pretty darn good thermal camera, leaving most comparable devices far behind. It has an impressive 256 by 192 pixel resolution, delivering high-quality thermal images that show even the smallest details. And with its 24 frames per second also delivers a very smooth view, leaving most competition with 9 frames per second miles behind. And because it's powered by your phone's battery, you never have to worry about charging the P2 Pro. It can measure from -4 to an incredible 1112 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a much higher temperature than the competition. And if you want to inspect tiny details on electrical components, you can also order it with a super convenient macro lens. The only downside is that it doesn't have a hard case pouch to safely store it in, as it's so small you can otherwise easily lose it. But in conclusion, if you're looking for a high-quality thermal camera that's compact and easy to use, this might be the one for you. Thanks for watching. If you liked our video, please consider liking and subscribing. More videos are on the way, so we'll see you on the next one.